Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, and in today's video I want to talk about some ways that you can bond with your crested gecko to not only make them like you a little bit more, but maybe just to really give you the fullest and best experience that you can have with your crested gecko. So let's jump into a couple ways you can do. Alright, so one way I think that you can, well, I guess first, geckos do not bond. There are geckos that are a lot more chill than others, but they're not gonna bond to you because you love them and they love you. They bond to you because, oh sweet, you bring food. Like, oh cool, and like, oh, you're not that bad, you're not gonna eat me, so like, we're chill. Like, they don't have the capacity of like a dog or anything like that to be like, oh, that's my owner, I love that person, you know, I don't really know this person. So, and I know that's kind of a touchy subject, and I don't think that they're stupid animals by any means. I think they're smarter than we give them credit for sometimes, but I don't think that they're capable of bonding with each other, and I don't think they're capable of bonding with me, you know. So just get that out of the way. Crested geckos don't bond, but this is a way that you can bond with them. I mean, they don't have to accept you, but you can still bond to them, right? So the first way that you can bond with your crested gecko is just to hold them. Just kind of, this is the other thing too, and I think that some of the areas that I've gone wrong with my first crested geckos that I had and things like that is I waited too long. You really need to kind of get in there and you need to grab them firmly but gently and just let them know that you're there. Let them hand walk. That'll calm them down. It'll get them there. And then just kind of hold them, you know, and it doesn't have to be for an extended period of time or anything crazy like that. You just kind of just hold them. Some days are going to be more acceptable than others. You know, some days Louise, she's going to be running all over me, but today she's being pretty chill about it. So you kind of got to feel the room, read the gecko. If the gecko's down for you to, see? If the gecko's down for you to hold him, then keep holding him. If the gecko seems like it's very panicked, then put it back. Because the last thing you want is your gecko to associate you with a negative connotation and a negative impression of them saying, oh, well, when this person comes around, I need to be scared. You want them to say, oh, when this person comes around, he's going to pick me up, he's going to hold me for a couple minutes, he's going to put me back down. Cool. Like, let's move on. Another good way is to kind of make them associate you with food, and there's a couple ways to do that. One good way to do that is wait until they're, like, if you feed every other day, maybe every other day, put their food in right before you go to bed. So let's say you go to bed at, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, or 9:30, whatever. Usually they're going to be waking up around that time, so put their food in around that time, because then they're going to see you coming to the tank, they're going to see you put the food in, and they're going to see you walk away. So then they're going to say, oh, this person feeds me. And that's why I believe that you see some geckos will literally jump out on their owners when they see them. It's because that owner has done a really, really great job of associating that gecko with food, or associating themselves to that gecko with food. But don't have that expectation for every crested gecko. That's a very rare crested gecko. And let's be honest, there are some people out there who frankly can speak to animals somehow and make them chill with animals. Like, it's craziness. So luck of the draw, and if you're a fantastic, huge animal person and things like that, then maybe you'll be able to do it. I haven't been able to get to that level. I do have some geckos that will eat in front of me, and I have some geckos that if I drop a cricket in for them, they'll hit it immediately and they want to eat in front of me and things like that. So, which leads me to my next point. Tongue feeding insects is a really good way. I personally don't tongue feed. That's just because quite frankly, I don't really want to, and I don't really see a need for it because I like letting them hunt and things like that. But you can tongue feed, and then that's a way to get them associated with you. You can remove them and feed them, right? So you can take them out of their tank and you can put them in a Tupperware bin and let them hunt in that. Plenty of people do that and have great success. I personally don't do that. Like I said, I like to dump crickets in. I like to let them hunt. But that doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. There's plenty of ways to do it. If you want to have a separate feeding bin, that's a really good way, because they know when they're in that bin that there's eating time. My only recommendation for that would be to start it as young as you can with them, so that they're kind of, what you'll find sometimes in older geckos is it could stress them out and they won't even eat bugs at that point, or they won't be more inclined to eat the bugs. So starting in as young as possible is probably best for a method of that. So you can do that. The one thing that I would say don't do is do not ever hand feed. I know a lot of people think that it's like, it's good and it's something that, oh, of course I'm bonding. I'm holding the cup in front of them and things like that. And it's something that even I used to do. But then the more you think about it, and you don't want them to get dependent on you. But the other big thing too is you don't want to overfeed them, right? You don't want to hold the bowl in front of them, because these guys don't need to eat every night, you know, and they don't even need to eat every other night. They probably don't even, they can go, you know, probably a couple weeks without food, depending on the size of the gecko. So that doesn't mean don't do that, right? But they can. So hand feeding them, and I did a video on this, it's just not, there's just a lot of reasons it's not really a good idea. I know some people will sit by their tanks, you know, if you just sit by their tank at night and things like that, and then they get used to seeing you. Put them, honestly, if you really want to calm down any animal, you can put them in a high traffic room of the home, and they'll get used to hearing sounds like, you know, dogs, or I don't know, I don't really like cats and geckos, I don't have cats, but they'll get used to dogs, and you know, your kids running through, or your fiance running through, or whatever, you know, people, just kind of an active part of the house, people always moving. That way loud noises don't freak them out, you know, they don't need to be in this super dark, quiet room all the time, you know, it's just, they'll probably do just fine. But if you want to acclimate your gecko to that, it'll be easier for you to kind of take that next step in holding them for long periods of time without them really freaking out too bad. I know some people, like, I've heard people, like, they'll put like their hand in the tank and just let it sit there. I don't know. I think that can have a reaction either way. You know, one thing, if you put your hand in there and you see the gecko freak out, take it out immediately. That's something that would take a lot of time too. I just think you're better off, instead of doing that, just pick up the gecko and kind of let it, you know, hold it. Now, something too to remember when you are holding your gecko, our skin is at 98 degrees, you know, 98.6, whatever. These guys are only like 74, 75, you know, they're really what you keep your room at, right? Because the reptiles are cold-blooded, so they don't, you know, they don't regulate. So my hand, though, is for an extended period of time, is very uncomfortable to this gecko. It's really not ideal to have them sit on a heat mat. Leopard geckos like that, bearded dragons like that. That's why bearded dragons are known as like snugglers, right? It's because they like your heat. You know, they're not, once again, they're not bonding with you. You're a resource to them. Your energy, your heat. I can sleep now. These guys, they don't really need me for heat, and really they don't really want me for heat. So one way to avoid that, maybe just kind of hold them right here on your sweatshirt or whatever. If it's a little cooler, maybe they'll be a little more active. Things like that. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. So when you go to pick up a gecko, you need to pick them up gently, but you need to be firmly. I think that way too many people will wait until that gecko is just like, oh, they're climbing onto my hand, that's when it's time. And it's really not, like I said, those geckos exist who just seem like they love people day one, but that's an anomaly. You know, the odds of you getting a gecko like that are not very high. You pick them up gently but firmly, and you hold them, and you just kind of come in and pick them up, you know, or like this, just kind of pick her up, and she's okay. I'm not choking her down or anything. I'm just picking her up, and it's not, and they might freak out for a second, and you'll know the difference between, oh, I don't really want to be picked up, and get away from me, I'm about to drop my tail. So if you go in to pick them up and you see their tail wagging really fast, back out, try another day. If you pick them up and they're making noises, put them away. That means that that's a last ditch effort to get away from you. They're scared. They don't know what to do. They know that they can't eat you, so they're going to bark as loud as they can. One thing I see people do is like they'll pet their gecko's heads. Don't do that. That's what the gecko's going to perceive that as you coming down on them and trying to eat them. They don't like that. They don't need pet. They're not a dog. They have scales. They don't have, you know, they don't like that. So just hold them. Yeah, I don't think petting's needed. Honestly, it's really not. That's not the gecko. You know, they're not fur babies. They're scale babies. So don't pet them, especially on the head. But you'll know the reaction when you see it, and it's just gonna take time, and You know, there have been geckos who I will go in to pick them up and they'll just sprint around their cage. And at that point you shut the door and you walk away and you try another day. You don't need to try every day. You can try once every 2-3 days. You know, it's really not, I would probably avoid trying to handle them for the first time if it's a feeding night. Because you want to make sure your gecko's eating, right? And, you know, it's more important for the gecko to be healthy than for you to bond with it and for you to gain its trust. So just kind of keep that in mind. Grab the gecko gently but firmly and then move on. And just keep trying to bond with your geckos. That's really what it's all about. Is for you to get the full experience while keeping your gecko happy. Because that's really what this is. So that's going to wrap up the video, guys. I hope this helped. I hope you found a couple ways that you can bond with your gecko. If I missed any ways, comment them down below and maybe talk about some of your guys' success stories too. But that's blah, blah, blah. But until next time, guys, stay safe and stay positive.